Hello viewers, today our topic of discussion is the Spanish tragedy. The Spanish tragedy is a tragic drama written by Thomas Kyd. Before we start the play, let us speak a bit about the author of this drama, Thomas Kyd. Kyd was born in 1558 in a very prosperous family. His father was a scrivener. When Kyd was only 7 years old, he started going to merchant tailor school, which was a new and modern type of school. Getting admission into this school was quite difficult because it required a considerable knowledge of Greek or Latin as well as the Bible. So, Kyd's getting admission into such a school was no mean achievement. Kyd wrote this drama probably in the 1580s, and it is usually thought that Kyd was exposed to the classical dramatists like Virgil and Seneca when he was studying in this school. The first surviving copy of the Spanish tragedy was printed in 1592, but we have proof that the drama was already being enacted before that. Kyd was very much influenced by Seneca, and he introduced into the English language a new type of drama called the revenge tragedy. He died at a very early age of 36, but he has bequeathed to the English literature its first great masterpiece and also a new genre of writing for which he is remembered till this day. The full title of the play was The Spanish Tragedy, containing the lamentable death of Don Horatio and Belle Imperia and the pitiable death of old Hieronimo. But the play was not called in such a big name, it was simply called Hieronimo after the name of the protagonist. Before we actually go into the play, we must understand the background or the literary milieu of that age. In the Elizabethan age, when Kyd started writing, there was no literature of any consequence to speak of. So, during that time, especially along with Kyd, tragedy started gaining its viability and its effectiveness as a living art form only in the Elizabethan age, and that makes Kyd's The Spanish Tragedy very important because it is the first masterpiece of the Elizabethan literature. Also, about the background, it must be said that Kyd started this new genre of literature called the revenge tragedy. So, this revenge tragedy was a substrata of tragedy where the main motivation of the protagonist was taking revenge. So, this became the rage of the Elizabethan times, and afterwards also all the main tragedies that we still know about, they all deal with the theme of revenge as shown by Kyd. This Spanish tragedy was known to be the most popular Elizabethan tragedy. That has much to do obviously with Kyd's artistry, his way of writing, his way of producing the thing on the stage, but it has some other relevance also. So, the topical things that he introduced in this drama made a huge impact on the Elizabethan audience. So, two main topical points we will discuss now. The first one being the theme of revenge. In Elizabethan times, this revenge became a very controversial issue. First, there was the old tradition of taking private revenge against wrongs done against somebody's family. At the same time, there was this new Christian idea coming up that taking revenge or addressing the wrong done to somebody is the responsibility of God, not man. So, one side there was this idea that man should take revenge, another side people used to believe that no, you wait, God will take revenge on your behalf. In Elizabethan times, another new angle was given here. The state was becoming more and more powerful, so it was discouraging taking revenge in a private way. They wanted to take revenge through the legal process. So, people exactly did not know what was the real moral angle to treat revenge as. But one thing was very much sure, that the Elizabethan public or the Elizabethan audience, they enjoyed seeing Machiavellian revenge taken on the stage. So, here in this drama, when Kidd uses that sort of thing, not only the hero, but also the villain, both are using Machiavellian tactics and much violence is being shown on the stage, naturally they were fascinated. So, that was one reason why Kidd's drama became so much popular. Another emotion that Kidd evoked was the strong anti-Spanish sentiment prevalent among the Elizabethans. They believed that the English were God's chosen people, whereas the Spanish were seen as antichrist. So, the Elizabethan audience was fascinated when they saw at the denouement of the play the entire royal lineage of both Spain and Portugal wiped off in a frenzied orgy of violence. So, these are the reasons why Kidd's play became so popular and started a new genre of literature known as the Spanish tragedy. The Spanish tragedy is divided into 4 acts. The first scene begins the play's exposition, wherein we are introduced to the key characters and the key themes. The scene starts with the ghost of Andrea and the spirit of revenge entering the stage. Andrea says that he has gone to the underworld, which we commonly know as hell. So, there he was sent and he met 3 judges there. One of them, who was called Minos, he could not judge the end of Andrea, and so he sends him to the king and queen of the underworld, who were known as Pluto and Proserpine, and there Proserpine tells Revenge to take Andrea back into the world to see revenge taken. So, this was the chorus part. Then the main act starts with the Portuguese prince Balthazar being captured and kept as a prisoner in Lorenzo's house in Spain. But Balthazar was quite well received because Lorenzo also was of the same age and they became friends. And then Belemperia, the sister of Lorenzo, caught the attraction of Balthazar, and Balthazar fell in love with this girl who was actually the lover of Andrea, whom Balthazar has killed already. But now, after the death of Andrea, this girl, Belemperia, is now loving Horatio. So, this one is the background. At the close of Act 1, Andrea complains that this revenge is not being taken at all because Balthazar is so well received in the Spanish court. But this revenge, because he knows everything, he assures him, no, this is not the case. Balthazar will be in trouble very soon. So, there the first act ends. Let us go into the analysis of the first act. The first scene grounds the plot in 3 important ways. First, Andrea's ill-fated love with Belemperia, then Andrea's death at the hands of Balthazar, and then he is becoming a spirit and coming back to take revenge. So, these are the main themes of the first act. Then we find that this story of Andrea's death is being told again and again, but every version is from a different angle. Like Andrea's version is very much contradictory to what the Lord General says. For the Lord General, Andrea's death is of no particular consequence, because he is one of the 300 soldiers killed in the great triumph of Spain. When Spain has won, what is the importance of one more soldier killed? So, how Andreas sees his own death is very much pitted against how it is seen by the king's court. That is one point. Another thing, we see the dramatic irony is used to great effect by Kyd in this act, because we see that Andrea's impatience, his despair at realizing that his death means so little to the world. Anybody's departure from this world does not have any impact on the grand scheme of things. So, naturally, he is very much in despair. Act 1 also introduces us to Kyd's fondness for antithesis, which is evident in Balthazar's discussion about his own capture by Lorenzo and Horatio. He pits one against the other as foil to each other. He speaks of the directness, the fierceness and the honesty of Horatio and the verbal guile of this Lorenzo. So, these characteristics are maintained throughout the play as we scene after scene. Now, we can go to the second act of the play. Lorenzo comes to know that Belle Imperia is in love with Horatio now, but he has already given word to Balthazar that Belle Imperia will be his. So, he decides to kill Horatio so that Balthazar is free to get this girl's love. So, on the other side, we are shown that Lorenzo is plotting the killing of Horatio, whereas Belle Imperia and Horatio, they are planning to have a secret meeting where they will not be disturbed in Horatio's father's garden. So, this Belle Imperia had much faith in her own servant Pedringano, and she tells him about this secret rendezvous that she is going to have with her lover. But this Pedringano was not a very honest fellow, and he divulges this secret to Lorenzo. So, when they were meeting there, that time this Lorenzo and Balthazar, they come upon that garden. On the other hand, another scene is being shown here, where there is a meeting going on in the royal court. There the King of Spain is having a meeting with Portugal Viceroy's ambassador and the king's brother, the Duke of Castile, who was actually Lorenzo and Belle Imperia's father. They were having a meeting. So, there the King of Spain decides to free Portugal from giving any tribute, and he also stipulates that Balthazar and Belle Imperia should marry each other, and their children should become the king of both Spain and Portugal, thereby uniting these two states. So, when this was going on the other side, this secret meeting between Belle Imperia and Horatio was going on. So, their poetic exchanges are now juxtaposed against the threats that are about to come from Horatio and Balthazar. So, these two villainous characters, they actually approach the garden. There they surprise the young lovers and they kill and hang Horatio and abduct Belle Imperia. So, this commotion wakes Hieronimo, Horatio's father, up from his sleep, and he comes to the garden only to see his dead son hanging from the tree. He is very much shocked, and his wife Isabella also comes there, and they can't believe what they are seeing, because Horatio was very lovable and brave boy. His sudden end like that shocks them like anything, and both of them become somewhat mad. So Isabella's madness is immediately very much perturbable, but whereas Hieronimo takes out a bloody handkerchief from the pocket of Horatio and runs away from the stage, vowing to take revenge against the murderers of his good son. So here at the end of the scene, again the chorus come. Here the chorus means the spirit of revenge and the ghost of Andrea. Andrea is, as before, he is still irritated, seeing that his friend Horatio is killed and Balthazar the villain is not killed. But again this revenge assures him that no, this is not the case. Very soon this friendship will turn into enmity. So there the second act ends. Now we come to the analysis of this. Here in this act we see Lorenzo emerging as a Machiavellian villain, where he is really a very evil character. His mind is very much bent on violence. So we little by little we try to put Lorenzo in the villain's shoes. He is becoming like that. Moreover, here so much is juxtaposed, the antithesis that we spoke of in the first act, it is being shown here again, like love and hatred, how they are being juxtaposed, you have to understand that. Like this Belle Imperia's love for Andrea actually gives rise to her hatred against Andrea's killer Balthazar. Balthazar's love for Belle Imperia leads him to have hatred for Horatio. So this love-hate relationship is put in a very tricky manner. Moreover, the symbol of the bloody handkerchief is now becoming greater and greater. In the beginning, the bloody handkerchief belonged to Andrea, given by Belle Imperia. Now Horatio's father has taken away that same bloody handkerchief from his son's pocket, and now it is no longer only the symbol of love, it has become now the symbol of revenge as well. The third act starts with Hieronimo getting a letter written in blood in Belle Imperia's hand. So in that it is clearly stated that Horatio was killed by Balthazar and Lorenzo. Hieronimo is somewhat doubtful about the authenticity of the letter. On the other side, this Lorenzo, being a villain, he now wants to wipe off those witnesses who helped him in murdering Horatio. So he wants to have both the servants who helped him in murdering wiped off. So what he plans is something like that. He decides that Pedringano, Belle Imperia's servant, should kill Cerberine, and then Pedringano should be executed by law. So Pedringano was very much hopeful that he will get his help from Lorenzo when he is caught by the law. So to assure him, Lorenzo tells a boy, the servants were known as page at that time. So he asks the page to give a box to Pedringano, and he tells that Pedringano is not to open that box. That box contains the official pardon letter from the king. This page, while going to Pedringano, he opens the box secretly and sees that the box is really empty. So Pedringano is actually executed because there was no letter of pardon. So it was only a ruse played by Lorenzo. So like that, both Cerberine and Pedringano both are removed from this world because they were the witnesses of Lorenzo's crime. This Pedringano, from his body, a letter was received by the hangman, who shows it to Hieronimo, because Hieronimo was the judge. He shows him the letter wherein it is written by Pedringano that he will divulge the secret that Balthazar and Lorenzo have killed Horatio with the help of their servants. So, now Hieronimo is very much satisfied with the original letter that he gets from Bel Imperia. He decides to tell the king about this and get legal revenge. Remember that he was the judge. Immediately he did not want to take revenge by his own hand, but he goes to the king. The king is totally unaware that Horatio has been killed. So, what Hieronimo was telling, the king naturally does not understand at all. So, he does not get any justice from the king. Now, he decides that he has to take up revenge on his own, and he now decides to use subterfuge, some ruse, and he starts behaving in a very friendly way with his son's murderers, so that they do not suspect that Hieronimo already knows that who have killed their son. So, here the act 3 ends and the chorus comes, and as before, this Andrea is still very much upset. Now, Balthazar is engaged to his ladylove Bel Imperia, Horatio is killed. So, when justice will come? Then what happens? This spirit of revenge, he shows him a mask. Mask is a sort of dam charade, a drama, where a royal marriage party is coming, and the god of marriage, Hymen, he blows out the torch and drenches them with blood. So, now Andrea understands the meaning of the mask, and he is somewhat satisfied that really his revenge is sure to come fast. So, here actually this act ends, and here we find that Balthazar is really not of a very villainous character. The main antagonist is Lorenzo, who is manipulating everybody and plotting against everybody to get his own end fulfilled. And another thing that we must remember here is that Hieronimo is now very much indecisive. He is not acting out his part, what he is supposed to do. He is so much indecisive. So, that matter is totally against Lorenzo's action and decisiveness. So, now these two characters are pitted against each other in their mode of action. One more important point is here, which has to do with the literary quality of this play. Here the page is introduced, I told you, who carried the box to Pedringano from Lorenzo. He speaks in prose. Usually the plays were written in verse, but the Elizabethan literary convention was that those who were placed in the lower rungs of society, they usually spoke in prose, whereas the people of higher rung of society, they spoke in verse, and here that tradition is being followed. In the fourth act, Bel Imperia upbraids Hieronimo for not taking revenge yet. She goads him to take revenge, and then Hieronimo understands that he has an accomplice in Bel Imperia. So, both of them decide on how to take revenge. At the same time, what happens, you know, this king's party, they wanted Hieronimo to stage a play, because sometime before he has done that and it was very successful. So, Hieronimo gets this opportunity to have his revenge on the murderers of his son. He decides to enact a play which he has written when he was in school, and he somehow convinces his son's murderers, Lorenzo and Balthazar, to act in that. Balthazar is very much suspicious, but Lorenzo says that no, we must keep on pleasing this man so that he does not think that we are his son's murderers. So, they are ready to act in the play that is to be staged by Hieronimo. And then what happens on the actual wedding party, this play was being staged, and on the first row the King of Spain, the Viceroy of Portugal and all other dignitaries, the royal people, they were sitting on the front row itself. So, they were amazed by the reality of the play, and they started congratulating Hieronimo at the end of that play. Then Hieronimo reveals that the murders that were enacted on the stage were not just enactment, they were actually committed. The murders were real, and none of the actors are alive now because the weapons used were all real weapons. And then he looks at the Viceroy of Portugal and tells that, I understand your grief because I have killed your son Balthazar. When my son was killed, I had the same experience. Then he cuts off his own tongue so that he does not have to speak anymore. On another side, Isabella commits suicide, and then Hieronimo also takes out the bloody handkerchief from his pocket to show that he has been able to take revenge of his son's death, and he runs out of the stage deciding to end his life. So, the entire royal family of both Spain and Portugal are thus wiped off. So, here the play ends, and now Andrea is very much satisfied because all the evil people have died. He has really got his revenge, and he then assigns various heavens to the good people, his friends, and eternal hell for the evildoers. So, now we come to the end of the play. Here we see that the themes that we were speaking about in the beginning of the play, that anti-Spanish sentiment, and all these are satisfied at the end of the play. And the Machiavellian character of Lorenzo, that also is very much satisfactory to the audience because they have been able to see much bloody violence on the stage. Another thing, the first climax and the end climax, they really resemble each other, only thing the subjects are different now. In the first climax, Hieronimo and Isabella, they were the innocent dupes, and Lorenzo and Balthazar were the Machiavellian characters. At the end of the play, we see that Hieronimo and Belle Imperia, they become the Machiavellian characters, and Lorenzo and Balthazar, they are the innocent dupes. So, like this, Kyd was able to present a very, very beautiful play which is known to be the best one of this particular genre, revenge tragedy. So, today our session ends here. In our next session, we will speak about the literary qualities that are used in this Spanish tragedy.